Welcome to Bookish Mind Podcast, Season 4, Episode 20, our final core discussion from Atomic Habits by James Clear. Today we explore the hidden risks of habit-driven living and how true mastery demands mindful reflection, adaptability, and a flexible sense of self. For this deep dive, you've provided us with a fascinating section from James Clear's Atomic Habits, specifically Chapter 20, which is all about the downside of creating good habits. We've spent so much time talking about how to build habits, how to stack them, make them irresistible. But what if our greatest strengths become our hidden weaknesses? What happens when habits get, too automatic? How do we make sure they actually serve mastery instead of, leading to stagnation?
That's a really crucial question, and it basically sets our mission for this deep dive. Because while habits are foundational, absolutely essential, they're just not enough for true excellence. So we'll dig into how to stay dynamic, responsive, not rigid, and why that constant self-awareness is really the antidote to getting complacent. It's about building that solid base, sure, but never just settling there.
Okay, so let's unpack this paradox. We definitely have to start by acknowledging just how powerful habits are. They really are the backbone of, any pursuit of excellence. Think about like a chess grandmaster. They've got the basic moves down cold, how the knight jumps, the rook slides. It's totally automatic. And only then can their mind really focus on the next level stuff. Strategy, anticipating moves, seeing the whole board. Every fundamental piece that gets locked in frees up precious mental space for that harder, higher-level thinking.
Precisely. That's the engine of progress, really. Every single time you repeat something, you build fluency, speed, skill. It lets us do complex things without even thinking, which is incredibly efficient. It frees up our brain power for the tougher problems. That's the huge upside, right? So why we work on habits in the first place.
But here's where it gets really interesting and where that core paradox comes in. While we gain all this efficiency from automating things, we also, kind of subtly, become less sensitive to feedback. We can fall into just mindless repetition, letting little errors slip by, maybe not even noticing them. So that very efficiency we praise can actually become this hidden trap. It can blind us to mistakes and, maybe more importantly, opportunities to improve. That efficiency, if we don't watch it, can definitely breed complacency.
Yeah, you've absolutely nailed the critical point there. When something becomes good enough, because we can just do it on autopilot, we stop thinking about how to do it better. We might think, oh, I'm getting better just because I'm doing it more. But really, often we're just reinforcing the same old habits, good or bad, not actually enhancing them. In fact, Clear mentions research suggesting that once a skill is truly mastered and becomes fully automatic, performance can actually decline slightly over time, just a little bit.
Okay, now let's be clear. For really simple stuff, like brushing your teeth or tying your shoes, that tiny dip, or just being good enough, totally fine. You don't need some complex system to keep improving your toothbrushing technique. The less mental energy you waste on trivial stuff, the more you have for what actually matters, right? For those bigger decisions that move the needle.
Absolutely. But for anyone aiming for, elite performance, really maximizing potential, a more nuanced approach is definitely required. You can't just repeat the same actions blindly and expect to become exceptional. Habits are necessary. Yeah, they're the foundation. But they are not sufficient for mastery. What you really need is this crucial combination. Habits plus deliberate practice equals mastery. It's not just about doing, it's about doing with very specific intention.
Okay, so if habits get us to that good enough plateau, how do we push past it into real mastery? Paul talks about deliberate practice. Could you break down what that actually means? Why is it so important for continuous improvement?
Right, deliberate practice. It basically means you narrow your focus way down onto one tiny element of success. You repeat that until it's totally internalized, becomes automatic like a habit. And then you use that new habit as the foundation to tackle the next little challenge. Think about a basketball player. They need to dribble without thinking, right? Before they can even start working on, say, complex layups with their weaker hand. Or think about a surgeon. They have to repeat that initial incision so many times they could do it blindfolded. Why? So they can free up their mental energy to focus on the hundreds of other variables and split-second decisions that pop up during a real surgery. It's about building layer by layer, consciously.
And this whole process, where mastering one thing just opens up the next frontier. It sounds like a different kind of effort, doesn't it? Like it's this endless cycle. Old tasks get easier, sure, because you've mastered them, but your overall effort doesn't actually decrease, because you're constantly pouring that energy into the next challenge, the next edge of your ability. Each habit you lock down unlocks the next level. It's like this progressive layering of improvements, right? Each one building on the last.
Exactly. You're always pushing right up against the edge of your current abilities. That's where the growth happens.
Okay, so if autopilot can lead to complacency, how do we actively fight against that? Especially if we're aiming high. James Clear points to a key antidote: setting up a solid system for reflection and review.
Yes, this is absolutely crucial. It's how we stay conscious of our performance over time. It lets us continuously refine, tweak, improve. Without that reflection piece, it's just incredibly easy to start making excuses, rationalizing why things aren't quite right. And eventually you lose that ability to objectively see how you're really doing. It's like a proactive defense against that slow, quiet slide into mediocrity.
And this isn't just some abstract idea, right?
Yeah.
The book gives that really compelling Lakers example. What was the story there with Pat Riley and his career best effort program, the CBE?
Oh, yeah, that's a fantastic illustration. So in 1986, the Lakers were stacked, just unbelievably talented. People were calling them potentially the best team ever. But then they kind of stumbled in the playoffs, didn't even make the finals, and Coach Pat Riley, he was sick of hearing about their potential. He wanted consistent greatness. So that summer, he created this CBE program, Career Best Effort.
And the genius was kind of in its focus, right? He set a baseline by tracking their stats way back. Then he asked each player for just a 1% improvement over the season, a career best effort. But it wasn't only points and rebounds, was it? It was about total effort, spiritually, mentally, and physically. They even got points for, like, unsung heroes stuff, diving for loose balls, helping a teammate out.
Exactly. Imagine Magic Johnson's game. Points, rebounds, assists, steals, plus credit for those hustle plays, those unsung hero moments, and then minus turnovers, all boil down into one number, his CBE score. Maybe it's like 879 for a game. And Riley didn't just track it over time. He compared it to their past performance, sure, but also against the best players at their position across the league. He'd put the top performers up on a blackboard each week. He even compared month-over-month data, like November 86 versus November 85, just constant measurement and feedback.
So the key wasn't really about teaching them new basketball skills. It was about maximizing the talent they already had, making sure their existing habits were actually improving, not declining. And the result: 8 months later, Lakers are NBA champs. Then they win back-to-back titles. Riley's, quote, nails it. Sustaining an effort is the most important thing. Learn how to do things right, then do them the same way every time. That consistency, driven by review, prevents stagnation, even for the best.
And this idea, reflection and review, it's not just for championship basketball teams. The book gives other great examples too, like the marathoner Eliud Kipchoge, probably the greatest ever. He still takes notes after every single practice, reviews his training, actively looks for tiny areas to improve.
Wow. And Katie Ledecky, the swimmer. She records wellness scores, nutrition, sleep, even tracks her competitors' times. Her coach reviews it all weekly. It's that constant feedback loop again.
It's not just athletes either. Think about Chris Rock, the comedian. When he's working on new material, he hits small clubs constantly, dozens of times, testing hundreds of jokes. He literally takes a notepad on stage, writes down what works, what doesn't, where to tweak things, the few killer lines that survive. That becomes his next big special.
Right. And I know executives, investors, too, who keep decision journals. They write down big decisions, why they made them, what they expect to happen. Then later they review it, see where they got it right, where they were maybe off base. It's all about that deliberate fine-tuning, not just, going through the motions.
Which brings up a really important question for you listening right now. How do you build reflection into your life? James Clear actually shares his own system, which is pretty practical. Every December, he does an annual review. He literally tallies up his habits for the year, articles published, workouts done, new places visited, stuff like that. Then he asks himself 3 key questions. What went well this year? What didn't go so well? And crucially, what did I learn?
And then halfway through the year, in June, he does an integrity report. This sounds like it's more about checking alignment, right? Making sure he hasn't drifted off course. It's a time to revisit his core values, see if he's actually living by them. He asks himself, what are my core values? How am I living with integrity right now? And how can I set a higher standard moving forward? It's about checking in on that identity piece.
Exactly. And these reviews, they might only take a few hours total each year, but they're incredibly valuable periods of refinement. They actively prevent that gradual slide, that slow drift that happens when we're not paying attention. They remind us to revisit who we want to be and check if our habits are actually helping us get there. They signal when it's maybe time to upgrade habits, take on new challenges, or maybe even dial back and focus on fundamentals for a bit.
There's that powerful mirror analogy in the book that really helps visualize this, like worrying about every little daily choice. That's like staring at yourself in the mirror from an inch away. You see every tiny flaw, lose all perspective. Too much feedback, right? But on the other hand, never reviewing your habits. That's like never looking in the mirror at all. You could have spinach in your teeth all day and not know it. Totally unaware of obvious fixable flaws. Too little feedback.
Great. And that's where periodic reflection fits in. It's like looking in the mirror from a normal conversational distance. You see the important stuff, the changes you need to make without getting bogged down in tiny imperfections or losing the big picture. You see the whole mountain range, not just obsessing over every single peak and valley. That regular reflection gives you just the right amount of feedback to keep improving without getting overwhelmed.
Okay, so reflection helps fine-tune habits.
Yeah.
But what does all this mean for our identity, our actual sense of self? The final piece here, the really deep level of reflection, is about revisiting your identity.
Yeah, and this is where another surprising downside pops up. So early on, repeating a habit is vital. It builds the evidence for the identity you want. Like, I work out, therefore I am a healthy person. Why? But once you really latch onto that identity, I am a writer, I'm an athlete, that very belief, that identity can actually hold you back later. It can create this kind of, well, pride almost. That makes you deny weak spots, makes you rigid, stops you from growing further. This is actually one of the biggest potential downsides of building habits. The more sacred an idea is, the more tied it is to who we think we are, the harder we'll fight to defend it, even against new information. So the identity that helped you grow can become a cage if you cling to it too tightly.
Oh, you see that everywhere, don't you? The teacher who ignores new methods because that's not how I teach. The veteran manager stuck in his way. The surgeon who dismisses younger colleagues' ideas. Or, the band that has a huge first album and just gets stuck, can't evolve. The tighter we hold on to an identity, the harder it is to grow past it.
There's a great solution offered by investor Paul Graham. Keep your identity small. Basically, the more you let one single belief define who you are, the less adaptable you become when life throws you a curveball. If your entire self-worth is tied up in being the star quarterback or the partner at the firm or whatever it is, losing that one thing can completely wreck you. Think about a strict vegan who develops a health issue and has to change their diet. That can trigger a massive identity crisis if vegan was their primary label. Cling too tight, you become brittle. Lose that one thing and you risk losing yourself.
That really hits home. James Clear talks about his own experience, right? Being an athlete was huge for him. When baseball ended, he really struggled. If you define yourself one way your whole life and then it's gone, who are you? You hear similar things from military vets after service ends or entrepreneurs after they sell their company. If your identity is I'm a great soldier, what happens post-service? Or if it's I'm the CEO, I'm the founder, how do you feel after the exit?
The key then to handle these shifts and just keep growing generally is to redefine yourself, to find ways to hold on to the important aspects of your identity, even if the specific role changes. So I'm an athlete might become something like, I'm the type of person who is mentally tough and loves a physical challenge. That's transferable. Or I'm a great soldier could transform into, I'm the type of person who is disciplined, reliable, and works great on a team. Still valuable traits. And I'm the CEO. Maybe that becomes, I'm the type of person who builds and creates things. Still true, just broader.
So when you choose it right, an identity can be flexible, not brittle. Like water flowing around rocks, right? Adapting instead of resisting. There's that beautiful quote from the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu that captures this perfectly. Men are born soft and supple, dead they are stiff and hard. Thus whoever is stiff and inflexible is a disciple of death. Whoever is soft and yielding is a disciple of life. The soft and supple will prevail.
It's such a powerful way to think about it. Nothing lasts forever. Life changes constantly. So we have to check in periodically. Are these old habits, these old beliefs, these old identities, are they still serving me? Because a lack of self-awareness, that's poison. But reflection and review especially, reviewing our very identity, that's the antidote. The ultimate insight maybe is that mastery isn't just about what you do, but about who you're becoming, and making sure that who you are stays adaptable enough to handle life's flow.
Okay, let's quickly recap the core insights from this deep dive then. Habits. incredibly powerful for building a foundation, getting efficient, but they carry that risk of mindlessness, of complacency. True mastery isn't just forming good habits, it's about constantly refining them through things like deliberate practice, always pushing for that next level.
And absolutely central to that refinement is consistent reflection and review. That Pat Riley story with the Lakers, it just perfectly shows how even the absolute best need a system for assessment and adjustment. It stops habits from stagnating.
And then, that deepest layer, making sure our identity stays flexible, adaptable. That stops pride or old definitions holding us back, lets us keep growing, keep evolving, and really just prevail through all the changes life throws at us.
So we'll leave you with this final provocative thought. Take a moment and consider, what core assumptions or identities might you be clinging to? Things that maybe served you well once, but could now, possibly, be limiting your next stage of growth. How might just a small, intentional period of reflection help you unlock a more adaptable, more resilient version of yourself?